Welcome back to our short presentation series. Last week we talked about corals, and today we're going to talk about fish. There are a lot of fish in the Maldives. I don't know them all by first and last name, but let's classify them into families. So first family, butterfly fish. If you go snorkeling, diving, you see them 100%. They're always around. Usually yellow, black, white are the three colors, but sometimes a few other colors mixed in. And they're corallivore, meaning they're feeding on coral polyps, and they're diurnal, that means they're active in the day. And some of them are really romantic and stay as a lifelong couple together. Next we're up for parrotfish. The parrotfish, you even hear them before you see them. If you snorkel along the reef, you hear these sounds, like this crunching sound. That's actually parrotfish grazing on the algae that starts to grow over the coral and on the rocks. And they have a special teeth plates. The teeth are fused to plates which are extremely strong, and with that they scrape the algae off. And they also ingest a little bit of coral skeleton, which they then poo out as a very fine sand that you find on the beach later. Another interesting fact is that they can make a bubble, a mucus bubble. They secrete that off their skin at night that protects them from predators or parasites. So that's the parrotfish. Next we have angelfish, another really nice tropical reef fish family. Interesting here, like with many reef fish, fish in general, juvenile and adult version looks completely different. So here the regal angelfish, for example, you see has very yellow juvenile form and changes completely its appearance. And let's move on to triggerfish. Triggerfish have sometimes a bad reputation with snorkelers and divers, since the Titan triggerfish, which is the left bottom corner, can be aggressive. That's only the female when she has actually a nest. So you be careful. If the female has a nest, she actually has a territory that's cone-shaped from the nest all the way to the surface. And if you swim through there, she will attack you, and she has quite some teeth. It's the only fish that I can think of that can be aggressive when you snorkel along. And then we have Picasso triggerfish, left top. We have red-tooth triggerfish, and Picasso right on the bottom, and the clown triggerfish left on the top. And triggerfish all have this dorsal fin that looks like a trigger, and with that they can actually lock themselves into a crack in the reef and be protected from predators. And let's move on to moray eels. Moray eels easily to recognize with this long muscular body, and usually you just see the head sticking out of the reef and the mouth is opening and closing, and some people might think that's a sign of aggression. No, that's just to get water flowing over the gills. And then we have a really big family, that's the WRASSES, 600 species. The biggest one is a Napoleon wrasse, up to 2.5 meters. Really nice and colorful fish that all divers love. And in this family also we have really important members, the cleaner wrasses, like the moon wrasse on the top, the cleaner wrasse, bicolor cleaner wrasse on the bottom. Those ones are specialized to feed on parasites and detritus and stuff that clogs up the gills and teeth of other fish, and they set up so-called cleaning stations on the reef where those bigger fish, even turtles and so on, let themselves clean. They in turn get food and the fish gets cleaned. So it's a perfect example of symbiosis. and it's very important in the reef community. Next, you probably know this fish already, exactly Nemo. So he's actually a clown or an anemone fish. And there are many different species in the world, but in the Maldives we mainly have 2 species. We don't have the real Nemo, he lives around Australia, Indonesia, but we have the Maldives anemone fish, also called Blackfoot anemone fish. He's endemic to the Maldives, and we have the Clark's anemone fish that you can find in other parts of tropical oceans as well. And why are they called anemone fish? That's because they always live together with their host. And the anemone is an animal. It's got a mouth, it's stuck on the bottom, it's got tentacles with stinging cells similar like a jellyfish or a coral polyp. And it feeds actually on plankton and small fish. But Nemo is immune again to the sting, and it can hide in the anemone. It's protected. It's got a home, but also it will defend the anemone. And so it's another example of symbiosis, classical example. Now, so sharks are different than the previous discussed fish, who were all bony fish. Sharks are cartilaginous fish. They have a very flexible skeleton. And sharks are not the monsters that most of us think they are. They are actually intelligent and shy animals. And there's only about 5-6 human fatalities with shark accidents worldwide per year, usually from tiger shark, great white shark. But we humans kill over 100 million sharks annually, mainly just for their fins. So it's completely out of perspective. Now in the Maldives we have quite a few different species here, but we mainly just see the blacktip reef shark, especially juveniles in the lagoon. We see the nurse shark, bottom left, and we see the grey reef shark in channels when we go scuba diving. And during the plankton season, if we're lucky, we can see the biggest fish of all, the whale shark. The other sharks generally are deep or oceanic and further out, so it's more difficult to see them. Now, rays are also cartilaginous fish, so the same class as sharks, evolved from the same ancestors. And here we have many different species. Yeah. Also, what they have in common with sharks are these electric sensors, the Lorentzian pulley around their head, with which they can sense prey. For example, a hammerhead that senses a stingray in the sand. Some of them give live birth to an embryo that hatches in an egg in their body, and some of them are laying actually eggs. Now, rays, we have many different kinds of rays in the tropical ocean here. Stingrays, they're round, have the eyes on the top, a long tail with a venomous stinger. It's those ones in the middle here. And they actually use that as a defense. So if you get too close to them, you have to be careful. Then eagle rays, top left, bottom right corner, they feed on crustaceans, also on the sandy bottom. They have a funny face with a little mouth and triangular wing shape, and normally spotted, or the ornate moray on the top left. And then we have the devil rays, that means the mobula, middle left, and the manta ray, middle to the right. And they both have these cephalic fins. They're feeding on plankton or very small fish, and they're filter feeders. So they funnel the water into their mouth, and plankton stays inside, goes to the stomach, and the water flows out on the gills. And of course, Bartol is a very good and special place to see mantas in the season from May to November when we have plankton in the water. Thank you very much. That's it for this week, and next week we'll talk about turtles, dolphins, octopus, and a few more things.